What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Just an Insight podcast. After the 2 weeks absence, we're back. Hope you haven't missed us too much. Just in case you have forgotten who I am, my name is Tim Birkbeck. I am a writer. I am a lover of films, music and wrestling. But most importantly of all, I am your body and vehicle through this podcast. Just a quick little heads up, voice is a little bit shocked because I've done band practice for the first time in about 3 weeks, and I went pretty hard, so I'm a little bit gravelly, but last time I left you with the little chat that I had with Tank from the horror punk band Energy. In that time, I've been in 3 different countries. I've seen numerous awesome bands, recorded a couple of episodes for upcoming episodes of this show, and then came crashing back down to reality, unfortunately. But hey, that's just life. But honestly, I had the best time while I was away. I cannot thank my friends from Bristol enough for taking me with them on the little jaunt around mainland Europe, and kind of culminating in Fluff Festival, which was just phenomenal. Like, everyone I've spoken to since I've got back, I've just said, like, what an awesome fest it is. And I'll give a brief kind of overview because there was just too much to talk about to confine into one intro. But highlights for me were Suffer and Heaven in Her Arms. Obviously City of Caterpillar were another one up there, as was Sect, but Suffer and Heaven in Her Arms just blew me away. They were just awesome. Spent way too much money on merch. Ended up coming away with like 10 records, 4 new t-shirts, a new tote bag, and a few other bits. I did not buy a straight edge clock though, despite my friends trying to peer pressure me into it. Had the best vegan food. It was just, really awesome food. Saw some crust punks dancing around in the mud, which was, crust punks being crusty. I saw my good friend Heinzel, who I haven't seen in almost like 4 years, which was cool. It was nice to catch up with him. All in all, pretty awesome weekend, and I'm most definitely going to be going back to Fluff next year, even though I know they haven't announced any bands yet. But yeah, I think after the experience of that, I'd be an idiot not to go back, to be totally honest. As I mentioned, managed to grab a couple of bands that played Fluff to do future episodes of this show. They're slightly shorter than the normal interviews that we do because I didn't really want to take up too much of the time, and there was a lot kind of going on over the whole weekend. And obviously there was bands that I wanted to see, so I just grabbed a couple as quick as I could. So yeah, they'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks or so. But yeah, as I said, apart from that, kind of came crashing back down to reality with a bump. But my friend from Wales did come down this weekend, so it's really cool to hang out with her, show around my lovely city that is Portsmouth. But yeah, apart from that, just getting back into the groove of work, really. But yeah, that's all I've got to say, really. So that brings us nicely onto this week's episode, and it's a pretty good one, if I do say so myself. I had the opportunity to speak to Silverstien frontman Shane Told about the band's latest album, about how Shane had to go through a pretty dark time to kind of get the quote-unquote the inspiration for this record. But as we go into in the chat, it's kind of, for him, he says maybe some of the best stuff that they've done, and listen to it, it's kind of, for me, back to form with Silverstien. They were a band that I got into in college. I wouldn't say I was a massive fan, but I kind of followed their stuff. But I did drop off them a little bit. But this new record, I really enjoy it. It's got some really good tunes on it. So yeah, if you get a chance, go check it out. But also kind of spoke to Shane about the band's longevity, how they kind of didn't kind of follow any fads. They stuck to what they believed in, and that's kind of why they're still hanging around. They're out on Warped Tour at the moment and absolutely killing it over there. So yeah, they're still going strong after all these years. And it was just, as I said, it was the band that I was kind of listened to in my college years. So it was a real honour to speak to Shane. Apart from me making an absolute tit of myself right at the beginning of the conversation when I called him Shane Todd rather than Shane Told. So straight off the bat, apologise, Shane. But we got into it. It was a really good chat. So please, as I said, apart from the little mishap, probably one of the best episodes we've had so far, in my opinion. So please sit back, relax, as I talk to Shane Told from Silverstein, and I'll see you on the other side. So joining me this week on the Just an Insight podcast is vocalist of the band Silverstien, Shane Todd. Shane, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me. How are you doing?
It's Shane Told, actually.
Oh, Told. Sorry. It's a good start, okay. Isn't it?
That's something that I get a lot. My last name is pretty uncommon, actually very uncommon. So I get Shane Todd a lot. Sometimes I get Sean Todd. That's the worst. but no, it's Told.
But apart from me getting your name wrong, how are you doing?
I'm great, man. I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Just finished my day job, so get back and just chill out, relax, and get to talk to you. So that's a nice change of pace.
There you go. I'm glad I'm your exciting after work thing. That's great.
So if we start off with where you guys are at the moment, obviously you're kind of in the mix of Warped Tour. So how many dates have you done so far?
Not that many, but it feels like a million.
I can imagine.
Yeah, man, it's like, to say it's hot out here is like the biggest fucking understatement ever. Like, yeah, it's so brutal. And they started the tour off. Well, the first two shows were fine. They were Seattle and Portland, which are kind of mellow weather. Then they put us right into Phoenix, Las Vegas, where it's a super dry heat.
Yeah,
it's crazy, like 115 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 45 Celsius. And then next thing you know, we're in Florida, where it's like, it's only, I don't know, 38 degrees Celsius, but then it's like so humid. So it's been brutal. But we're in North Carolina right now. Cool. On an off day. We play North Carolina Warped Tour tomorrow, and hopefully as we go north, it gets a little bit cooler.
Yeah. And how many times have you guys played Warped Tour?
This is our 7th time doing the tour.
Yeah.
So we're kind of the veterans.
So how have you found it kind of going through the different years? Because obviously audiences change and things like that, but as you say, you're kind of the veterans, the mainstays. So how does the experience change each time?
Well, surprisingly, the layout, the venues, the people running Warped Tour, everyone from the people like the production managers and tour managers and everything, right down to the people setting the thing up.
Yeah,
they're pretty much the same people, all the same people since we did our first Warped Tour in 2004.
Okay, which
is crazy. These people, like, they do Warped Tour every year, like every summer. That's what they do. It's like a part of their, big part of their life. So that part's really remained consistent, remarkably consistent. But the music is the biggest change.
Yeah.
And I think that's, Warped Tour started out, I went to my first one in 1997, which is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It was mostly punk rock bands. And they had some other stuff, like they had a little bit of hip hop, and they had, some things of that nature, but for the most part, it was punk. And, you wouldn't have, like, metal bands. Like, metal bands were definitely not a part of Warped Tour.
Yeah.
Now, it's a huge part of Warped Tour, and I think it speaks to, them being smart and being able to evolve with the ever constantly changing scene. I don't know, but we've seen all the different trends, but it just blows my mind when I walk into the office, like, and it's just the same people that were there 13 years ago when we did it our first time.
And this time round, what's been the highlight so far?
For us, it really is just hanging out. Man.
Yeah.
Like, the shows are great, of course. People come out in droves. You play to the sea of kids, and everyone's excited. And that of course, is great. But, that's only 25, 30 minutes of the day. And then the other, whatever it is, hours and hours and hours, we spend sitting behind our trailer, popping up our tent, getting out the lawn chairs, grilling some burgers and dogs on the barbecue, and drinking a shitload of beer. And for us, that's a great way to pass the time with some of our friends that are out here. And we have a lot of friends on Warped Tour.
And obviously, something I wanted to speak about is obviously the new record that's coming out. Is this the 8th record or 9th? I can't remember my figures now.
We've been calling it LP8.
Yeah.
However, we did a record called Short Songs, which we don't count, I guess. So,
yeah.
So I guess if you want to count that one as a record, then it's number 9.
Cool.
But we've been calling it LP8, yeah.
So obviously it's called Dead Reflections, and I think from kind of looking back on your guys' history, I think it's quite an apt name in a way that the records you do are quite conceptual, and they kind of speak of the time that Silverstein is at. Is that the kind of the way that you wanted this record to be put out?
Yeah, man. I would say absolutely. I mean, all of our records are, different, personal. They have a different theme, and this one is no exception. I think, you're starting with the title, and the title was actually not an easy. It didn't come that easy this time around.
Okay.
Actually, I wanted to call the record "Don't Die Like Me."
Okay.
And basically the reason I wanted to call it that's that chorus in the first track, but the reason I wanted to call it that was because I went through a real dark time. I went through a really hard year, the hardest year of my life, hands down. And I got to a point where I was so, I guess, depressed and upset, and just like I just sort of stopped caring about what was going to happen to me. Yeah. And when you go through that, feeling, and I don't know if you ever have felt that way or listeners have, it's kind of scary, man. Because you can still remember what it was like to be okay. You can still remember what it was like when you were, happy. But when you just really just look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I don't care if I live or die, that's sort of, I guess, where the Dead Reflection title comes from. But I wanted to call it Don't Die Like Me, and it was directly based of an article I wrote about the footballer George Best.
Okay.
I'm sure you maybe know your English, so
yeah, I know who George Best is.
Okay, yeah, well, most Americans have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
So George Best, I'm sure your listeners know too, but he was, a footballer from Manchester United, and he was kind of the first celebrity, athlete that was, womanizing and drinking and partying, and and the story is that right on his deathbed, he called the press in and said to the press,
he did.
Don't die like me, and I felt that happening to me. I felt that relatable story to where I just was like, whatever, I'll just do, and I knew ultimately I was going to regret it. And I started reading about that. I started writing lyrics, and it was funny because writing the lyrics about this potentially happening to me, I think made it not happen to me.
Yeah.
And I was able to pull out of that depression and that funk, and I was able to, get things back. But a big part of it was writing the record, because I knew I had to. I didn't want to let the other guys in my band down. That was the only thing in my life I still had was Silverstein. That's how I felt. I felt like it was all there was. So, that's basically was the theme of this record. It's definitely the darkest, most personal, and the hardest record we've written, hardest record to write that we've ever written.
But so in hindsight, obviously, as you mentioned, obviously going through quite a dark time. Now that it's kind of finished, put to bed, and is ready to be released, is it quite cathartic now that it's almost off your chest to an extent.
Yeah, it is, and you know, it's funny because we made the record, and mixing the record was, to put it very bluntly, was a fucking pain in the ass, man.
Yeah.
Like, we mixed, I don't even know how many mix revisions we did of every song, but like, it was crazy, man. Like, I'm talking about dozens and dozens and dozens of mixes.
Yeah.
Going back and forth. The record was supposed to be mixed in 10 days.
Oh, God.
And it took over a month.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, the record kept getting pushed back because of the mixing. So, I had heard the record so many times.
Yeah.
Like, way more than anything we'd ever recorded. Usually, you know, okay, you record it, couple mix revisions, okay, the record's back, the record's done. All right, it's done, I'll listen to it. Okay. Now I probably won't listen to it for a long time, if ever. But you know what I mean? But this record, I just heard it so much that by the time it was done and mastered, I couldn't even be bothered to listen to the master. It's like, I'm already sick of this record. And, you know, so after a little while, you know, it had, you know, it'd been out, and some of my friends wanted to hear it, so I was playing it for my friends, and I was kind of forgot how heavy some of the lyrics were. Yeah. You know, and I just hadn't, you know, not only like reading them, but hearing them come out of my own mouth, you know, with the expression and remembering what I felt when I had written them. So, you know, that part of it was like very, it almost was a little scary. Yeah. You know, reflecting back on how I felt. Because now, like, for the first time in my life, I think, to be completely honest, I think I am happy. You know, and I really had to go through hell to get here. I had to. And because before all of this, I thought I was happy, but I wasn't. And I really needed to have this darkness in my life. And so, you know, what you say about this record being some, you know, therapeutic or something for me, absolutely, that's for sure correct.
And mentioning the amount of mixes and stuff that it went through, do you think that maybe something in your subconscious, because you put such a personal element into it, that was why you kept kind of visiting it to make it almost not perfect, but to make it the best that you could be, because you put so much heart into it?
Yeah, I don't really think so. Basically, it was just that this record was such a. I'm trying to think of the wording. It was. We wanted to make this record, and we knew this record was special. We knew the songs were special, and we worked so hard on them, and we worked so hard on every little detail of the writing process, and then of the tracking process. It was like when it came to the mixing, we were like, no, it has to be perfect. Like we can't. It would be a shame if we were like, oh yeah, well, that one flam hit there, like, is a little, it doesn't have the right delay on it, but whatever, because this is the 27th change we made. Yeah. It's like, no, that flam hit needs to have the right delay on it. You know, like, tiny things like that, which I think in the past we just sort of would have been like, yeah, sure, it is what it is, it's fine. But for some reason, I don't know, that this record, we were very perfectionistic right away when we were writing the songs, and then when it came down to time to mix the record, I think that was just our mentality. Yeah. You know, and I don't think it had anything to do with the subject matter of the record. It was just the technical side of it being like, yo, like this record's killer and it needs to sound killer, and that was the approach.
Well, I think obviously I want to kind of talk about your longevity, but I think this flows in nicely because obviously, from listening to the new record, obviously it sounds like a Silverstein record, but as you mentioned, there's kind of different elements to it. I don't know, maybe it kind of sounds like you've gone to it with a fresh approach. So even though you're kind of 17 years into being the band, do you think that this is kind of a jump-off point to the next phase of what Silverstein has to offer?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, we had one. You know, a lot of people always say to us, "Oh, you know, you guys haven't had you know, very many member changes." You know, yeah, and it's true. There's only been 7 people in this band ever. So, and there's only been 6 people in this band since, we've started making albums.
Yeah.
So the one member change we had, which was right before this Out of the Wind Shifts, we brought Paul Mark into the band. And when he came into the band, to me, that was almost like album number 1 again.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. I felt like he brought so much energy, creativity, talent, just into our band, that when we started working with him and writing with him, it felt brand new.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say that's their favorite record of ours. It's definitely one of my favorite, and I think that there was something magical about when he came in and he joined me and Josh and their guys, and we started writing songs. And I think that I Am Alive and Everything I Touch, the last record, was an extension of that. And now this one, I think we've finally clicked as a unit on how we work, how we write, how we communicate. And I think that those things, in conjunction with the producer we worked with, whose name is Derek Hoffman, he's super hands-on and like intense. So I think that mix of everything made this record just different, special, and I think there's something about the record that it still sounds like Silverstein, and for better or for worse, whenever I sing on something, it's going to sound like Silverstein.
Yeah.
But I think there is something, I can't describe what it is, that puts this record in sort of a different dimension. I can't put my finger on what it is, but a lot of people have been saying that about it.
And as I mentioned, obviously you guys been a band since the year 2000. Obviously, as I said, LP number 8. Like for you guys, and for you personally, Shane, what do you think like the biggest kind of change, like personally and musically, has been for the band?
Well, I mean, when you're talking about 8 records, like when we did the first record, we were kids. And
yeah.
I'd never made a full length record before. I'd been in bands that had done some demos, and we took a collection of songs and turned it into a full length. But to just show up and be like, all right, here we go, we're recording a full length. We didn't know what we were doing at all. We didn't know how the music industry worked at all. We had no idea. We were just basically the greenest 5 kids from Canada, like, ever.
Yeah.
And I think it was not only our music we didn't know what we were doing in the music industry. I think as people, we didn't really know what we were doing either.
Yeah.
And I was the oldest. When we made that record, the first record, I was the oldest, and I was 21. And, Billy is 3 years younger than me, so Billy was like 18, not even, actually no, because his birthday's later than he was probably 17.
Yeah.
So we were kids, and I think like we've really grown up together. And as we've gone and as we've grown up, we've found our own personalities, we've our own interests, the things that we like to do, and they're all different, as like 5 individuals should be.
Yeah.
But the one common thing we have is music, and our love for music and for traveling and seeing the world. And those things are what has always been kind of a common thing. So I think with each record, we've tried to take a very natural progression between each one.
Yeah.
I think like we've never forced it, and I've seen bands force it, because you have to understand, Tim, like over however many years it's been, 14 years since our first record came out. The trends come and go.
Yeah.
And the bands that latch onto those trends, like whether it's like for a while everyone was playing dance beats, and then a few years ago, remember, it was like dubstep. People were putting like dubstep rhythms in their breakdowns and stuff. It's like, that's so lame now.
Yeah.
Like they should have just stuck to what made their band their band. and you know, and there's always, you know, you always look at that stuff. You'll go back and go, huh, that was a weird record, you know?
Yeah.
It's like Kiss, when Kiss made the disco album, you know?
God, no, yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, it's like that. Everyone's like, what the hell? What? You know, and they don't even, they hate it. They think it's ridiculous that they did that. You know, so it's I think we've just really tried to do things naturally, and I think that's helped us not alienate our fan base. I think, but I think we're still able to progress. And if you listen to Dead Reflection, and then you'll go back and listen to what Broke Easily Fixed, they don't sound the same.
Yeah.
Like, they don't sound the same. I mean, they just don't. So, you know, obviously it took 8 records and a bunch of steps along the way, but I think as you go through our records, they kind of make sense, and they do sort of sound the same from one to the next. But then when you jump ahead, it's like, oh wow.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's fine.
And I think you touched upon it nicely there, but because for yourselves, obviously being a band as long as you have been, like, I know it's a completely different comparison, but I always kind of lump yourselves and with a band like Every Time I Die, because the fact that you, as you kind of said, you've kind of stuck to your guns, you've stuck true to yourself without kind of, as you say, jumping on trends, and here you are 17 years later still going strong, still playing Warped Tour. So do you think that kind of element of keeping the Silverstein identity has enabled you to be a band for 17 years and not get bored of it, basically?
I think so. I mean, the Every Time I Die comparison is kind of interesting. I mean, we came up around the same time as those guys. They're a little bit older than us, but you know, we're actually from very, very close proximity geographically.
Yeah.
Buffalo, New York is only like an hour from where we started the band.
Oh, okay.
So, and Every Time I Die used to come up when they were, you know, just signed or not even a signed band, and they'd come up and do local shows in the suburbs with us in Canada. So we come from the same, we sort of come from the same scene, in a lot of ways, and we come from the same time. And I think that their understanding of their self-awareness is maybe similar to ours. Yeah. You know, they've carved out a great audience, a great fan base. You know, for us to be compared with them and their fans and them as a band that you compared is like, you know, that's amazing. Because I have a lot of respect, so much respect for Every Time I Die. But, you know, I think they've done a great job of progressing naturally from album to album and still maintaining their sound. I really do. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's all you can do is go through and try to progress in a way that you're happy with, where you feel like you're making strides, you know, of new music and doing things that are keeping it fresh and exciting for you and not boring. And at the same time, not making music that's going to be like your fans are just going to go like, what? You know?
Yeah.
And some bands can do it and keep their fan base, but sadly, when a band really, really does this out of left field thing, it doesn't work out very well.
That's cool. And you mentioned obviously kind of being like the veterans of Warped Tour at the moment, but obviously every year there's kind of new bands coming through, And I think for yourselves, obviously, you play a lot of sort of headline tours now. So, how do you find kind of fitting in with the new wave of bands that are kind of in a similar genre to yourself? And how do you do you still find that you need to kind of win over audiences to an extent?
Yeah, I mean, winning over an audience, I think that's just the experience we have. You know, we're always going to be ourselves. You know, I'm always going to get up there. I'm going to be me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to try to appeal to some younger fan base or whatever. I'm just going to be me, and hopefully people like our music enough, and it has enough elements of other things that they like it. You know, because that's the thing about our band is we're very diverse. You know, we have songs that are very heavy and aggressive, and then we have songs that don't have any screaming in them and are slower or poppier. You know, we have this diversity, which is a blessing and a curse, because, you know, we can sometimes get by on just about any tour.
Yeah.
But we're always going to be the odd man out in some
Yeah.
way. You know, we're going to be always the heavy band on the pop punk tour and the soft band on the metalcore tour.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just the way it is. But in terms of fitting in with the younger generation, I don't know if we do. I don't think I really care if we do.
Yeah.
We're not trying to modernize our sound or anything. We're not looking at like some of these young hot bands, like, and I'm not shit talking them. I really like them. Like, I Prevail is a band like blowing up. Like, they've got this model. Like, kids are coming out on Warped Tour in droves to see that band, and it's great for them. But we're not going to look at that the same way we don't follow trends in our music like that. We're not going to start following trends in anything we do in terms of a stage show. We're going to do what we do. They're going to do what they do, and, you know, things will, sometimes they align, sometimes they don't. But, you know, for the most part, I think we're honest. We're no bullshit. People see through the bullshit, and they know we're a real band, and we've done it a long time, and for us, that's fine. And we aren't trying to appeal to everybody, and for us, it's fine just to you know, just to get out there and have a good time. You know?
Yeah. I do want to kind of backtrack a little bit, because I think I was trying to rack my brain about this when this was organised, but I was trying to think of the first time that I heard you guys, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it might have been on like a mixed Victory Records CD that came free with a magazine over here in the UK. I think that was
very possible.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned when that first record kind of came out, you was very green and everything, but I think the instant appeal of you guys, for someone like me as well, was kind of, as soon as I heard it, just clicked. So for you guys being so young and all of a sudden having this almost automatic fan base, was that quite daunting, like in the early stages?
It was, because I'm not an overly, like, or I should say I wasn't like an overly confident kid.
Yeah.
I didn't have like a lot of I didn't get up there and we were about to play a show, and I looked at the guys in my band, I looked at myself, and I never said, we're awesome, we're a great band, we're the best band of anyone here, we're gonna blow this show out of the water. You know what I mean? I can pretty much speak for all of us when that's how we felt. We felt a little bit like frauds. You know, we weren't the fastest players, we weren't the tightest. My singing was pretty atrocious at the beginning. You know, and we didn't feel like we were particularly cool. We were from Canada. We didn't have this great fashion. You know, we were just basically five guys from Canada, and we were having a good time. But there was a lot of times when we get thrown into these situations and these shows where I think we didn't have a lot of confidence in ourselves. So when things started blowing up, like, you know, people would email me like about my lyrics and stuff, and how I helped them through hard times. I was like, I don't know, man. I was just writing down my thoughts. Like, you know, I don't think I'm special.
Yeah.
You know? But thank you. And then I remember the first time somebody got a Silverstein tattoo. They got the robot from when Broke's Easily Fixed on their arms. First time I ever saw it. This is like a couple months after our first record came out. I saw that. I was like, we just ruined this guy's life. Like, we just ruined this guy's life. This guy has our stupid band tattooed on his arm forever. Because we didn't realize that, like, what we were doing was special.
Yeah.
We were just like, I don't know, we'll probably put out a record, tour a little bit, see the world. Well, not even the world. We'll see the United States, and then, you know, maybe put out a second record and then break up, because that's what every hardcore band did back then.
Yeah.
Hardcore bands would put out 2 records and break up. So I think once, you know, you're talking about the UK, and we're getting on these compilations, and we're getting some heat around the world, people hearing about us. I mean, like, the first time we actually went to Australia before we went to the UK.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, you know, odd, because, yeah. you know, the UK is pretty much when an American band or Canadian band gets a little bit of success, the first place that goes is the UK.
Yeah, of course.
Relatively close, and, you know. So we went to Australia first, and I remember getting on that plane, and they paid for our flights. And I was just like, I'm just getting a free trip to Australia. Like, didn't care. It was like, probably no one's even going to know who we are. Like, we felt like we were pulling, like, the wool over everybody's eyes. Like, oh my God, we get a free trip to Australia. This is amazing. We didn't think people actually we were gonna get there and people actually care about our music.
Yeah. You
know? And then we did. And we got there, and they did. And the shows were all sold out and everything. It was like, we couldn't believe it, you know? We just couldn't believe it. And that's how things translated all over the world. And it took me personally, like, I think years to finally accept that my band was popular. and we were, like, not that bad a band. We were okay. And we had some songs, and people legitimately liked our band. They weren't just pretending. So, you know, I think once we realized that, we were like, okay, well, how can we get better?
Yeah.
How can we play better? How can we sing better? How can we write better? And then from that, you know, and I think with every record, we've steadily improved, you know, minus maybe a Ravelson departure. So, you know, we I don't know. It's really been this slow hill climb we've done, musically and personally, you know.
And obviously, back in the kind of early 2000s, like the scene that you were kind of part of, a lot of the bands now are kind of obviously sort of faded away, but there was a kind of a period, well, especially over here in the UK, sort of around maybe like 2009 sort of thing, where all those kind of early Victory Records bands just kind of seemed to drop off a little bit. So from your perspective, being part of that kind of wave, was that how it felt? Like that all of a sudden there was just a disinterest in some of the bands, and that's what led to a lot of them breaking up. Obviously, thankfully, you guys are still going strong, but obviously many of the bands that were in that kind of clique, as you said, did 2 albums, then split up.
Yeah. It's hard for me to really say. I mean, we kind of kept our head down and kept working. And we never really paid attention to, you know, what other bands were doing like that, and if they were successful or not successful or why. We just knew that we were coming back to, you know, the places we'd been before, and every time we came back there was more people.
Yeah.
You know, and every record we did, it seemed like the press liked it more and our fans liked them more. So we were always just feeling like this upward trajectory, despite a lot, you know, the music industry kind of crumbling, and a lot of people, you know, saying that these bands, like with screamo bands or whatever people wanted to lump us into, would say, oh, that, you know, that genre's dead and no one cares about that genre anymore. And we're like, well, that's not true.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to say. Like, you know, we just played Cologne, Germany, and like we just played to 3,000 people, and it was insane. We just played in Southern California, and we did two sold out nights. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know what it was, if it was just our band, I mean, not alienating our fan base, not trying to change.
Yeah.
You know, I forget, was it Census Fail? They like did a record that didn't have screaming on it, I think,
Yeah.
at one point, you know, like, and like some bands were just doing like getting kind of weird, like, you know, and I'm not like, these bands aren't exactly aligned with us, but like I remember like the Starting Line, you know, they kind of made like a sort of a different record, like it was kind of mature, you know, and you know, bands kept kind of trying to change, and I think it was more for the sake of changing, or because they kept hearing people say that this music was dead, so then they changed, and then it was like, well, nobody wants to hear that kind of a band play a different kind of music.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It's hard to comment on it really for everybody else, but for us, we just kept our head down and kept doing our best and improving. And you know, another thing is like, we've always been very close with our fans too.
Yeah.
And like we're not mysterious kinds of people.
Yeah.
You know, we after the show we come out to the merch and we say hello. You know, and you know, if somebody wants to email me, my email address is shane@silversteinmusic.com. Like, you know, that stuff is public.
Yeah.
And I know now with social media and everything, it's kind of all public. Like, you can pretty much DM anybody. But like, we've always gotten back to our fans, and we've always, you know, tried to be there for them. And I think that the mutual respect we have with them has kept them coming back.
Yeah.
And has kept them supporting us. You know, so I think it's a big thing.
And obviously you mentioned sort of that you guys have constantly kind of been heads down working hard, and something along with records, something that you do constantly is obviously touring, and you've kind of toured with a who's who of people in sort of rock, metal, alternative music, whatever you want to call it. So have there been any tours in the whole 17 years of the band that you particularly stand out in the memory that you think, Jesus Christ, that was a killer tour?
Yeah, we don't fit the bill at all. Is that what you said?
Well, no, just like...
Sorry, the phone was kind of breaking up. I kind of missed most of what you said.
Well, have there been any tours in the period of Silverstein that you like really stick out in the memory for you particularly?
In a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, I thought you said don't fit in at
No.
all. And yes, there has been some of those too. We toured with Avril Lavigne in Japan once.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah. We played at the Tokyo Dome.
No way! That's incredible.
40,000 people there. We opened for Avril Lavigne. People were they didn't know what to think of our band. Like, we were screaming. This is kind of a funny story. I'll tell you. You know. So we had the same manager, or the same management company as Avril Lavigne. So we had this opportunity, and we said, "Oh my God, that is so weird. We have to do it."
Yeah.
So we went to Japan, and it was a long tour. It was like 3 weeks, two and a half, 3 weeks. This is like a long tour for Japan. We played all these places, and I remember the first show. We're like, okay, let's play like some of the maybe poppier songs, because we're opening for Avril Lavigne, you know?
Yeah.
And so we did, and the show was fine. They were a little bit weirded out, and then I think like 2 or 3 shows in, we're like, you know what? We're like getting a little bored. We're like, let's just play like a normal kind of set. So I just came out of the gate, and I don't remember what song it was. One of our maybe Vices or something, like a heavier song, and they were it was so much better.
Yeah.
They were at the first song. They were like, "What? Why is he screaming?" Like, you have to understand, these are like little Japanese girls that have probably never heard screaming in a band before.
Yeah.
Like ever in music. So I would come out, and then it was funny because by the end of the set, I would scream, and they would cheer.
That's awesome.
Every time I would scream, they would cheer. They thought it was the coolest thing. So the tour was actually really fun, but like so strange. You know, but in terms of tours that you know, I think really helped us out. I think we did a tour with Simple Plan in 2006.
Yeah.
And we opened for Simple Plan, and they're a bit of a different band than we are too. But I swear, man, like for even to this day, when it was in mainland Europe, it wasn't in the UK. To this day, people still come up to me and talk about that tour and say that was the first time I saw your band.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
Band was with that tour, so I think that was very helpful. And another funny thing that I never really thought about until right now is, we have a lot more success in mainland Europe than we do in the UK, and I never really knew why, but maybe that's part of it, because we didn't do the UK dates on that Simple Plan tour. We just did the mainland dates. So I do wonder if like, that was the kind of tour that was going to get us in front of people that, that found out about our band and latched onto us and are still, still coming out. So, those are a couple of them. And I mean, just so many other ones over the years, like, it's just so like, I wouldn't even know where to start. The Simple Plan tour, I think, was pretty instrumental for our success that we've had in Europe.
That's cool. And obviously, you're coming back to the UK at the kind of the end of this year. Are there any places that you're particularly looking forward to coming back to?
I mean, kind of all of them. It's weird, man. We did the UK for the first time. I remember it was with Under Oath. It was their first time too.
Yeah.
And it was Under Oath, and it was this band called The Hurt Process, actually, a Victory band that was on from England.
Yeah, I think I've went to that tour.
Oh yeah. That was our very first time ever in the UK. So we've come back, and at first we really we're trying to make it work and get bigger and bigger in the UK. And for some reason, I don't know what it was, but we just never had a crazy amount of success. We were doing so much better everywhere else. And I remember we played a download festival one year. I think it was, I can't remember what year it was. I want to say it was like 2010.
Yeah.
So we'd been coming to the UK for 5 years, and we'd done okay. And we played, like the headline show. Like we were the last band, but like the tent stage.
Okay.
I think we were right before like Frank Turner or something. I can't remember. We had a good billing though, and they paid us a lot of money to play. And I don't know if you've been to Download Festival. I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
So the weather was just miserable out here. And we showed up. We had to fly in from some other festival in Europe, so we didn't have like a bus or anything. So we flew in from the airport, got picked up in a splitter van. And we got taken there, and we said, okay, we're here, and it was pouring rain, and they said, and it was cold too, and they said, sorry, you don't have a dressing room.
Oh, no way.
And we go, well, we don't have anywhere to go, and they wouldn't let us bring the van, like the rental van, into the park. It had to stay outside, and all our gear got put on a forklift. So we could either stay outside the park sitting in the van until we played, and then they were like, oh no, well you can just sit under catering. So I remember we sat under catering. It was outside, but it was under it was covered.
Yeah.
I sat beside Dee Snider and his family, and they were having an argument. So random. From Twisted Sister. So random. But by the time we went on stage, we were so cold, wet, miserable. They also didn't have anything vegetarian at the catering.
Oh, no.
What the fuck is that? They didn't have anything vegetarian. We're like, this is England. Everything's vegetarian. And we finally played, and it was just everybody it was the last day of the festival. It was wet, cold, late in the day, everyone's tired. It was just we were so bummed out, and it wasn't a great show. And I said, you know what, England, thank you, but we're never coming back. This is the last show. And I said that, and we didn't come back for more than 3 years.
Yeah.
And we stuck to it. We said, you know what, we're just not coming back. And a part of me, to be honest, thought, maybe the press will cover it. And they'll, because, how press-driven it is over there. Maybe
Yeah.
the press will talk about it, and then people will be like, oh no, we want them to come back. But that didn't happen, and then we were just like, okay, fine, we just won't come back. And we didn't for years. And sorry, to get back to your question that you asked me like 7 minutes ago.
That's cool.
We missed it.
Yeah.
We missed it. We actually missed it. We thought we wouldn't. And then, like, I was like, oh, damn, I want my 99p Greg sandwich, like, so bad right now.
Yeah.
You know, Wagamama, are you kidding me? That place is amazing. You know, like, we did miss that, and we missed the people in the show and the vibe. And also our tour manager, who's been working for us now for 5 years, he's from Brighton.
Oh, okay.
He travels with us all over the world. He's from Brighton, so, you know, he likes the UK.
Yeah.
So we just kind of decided, okay, we'll start doing some stuff. So we did a few shows, but not very many. And then we did a little tour last year with Memphis May Fire and Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun hanging out there. And we just said, you know what? Let's just book a little headline tour, do some small rooms, and have a little fun with it. And that's what we booked for December. And I think it's going to be just really fun. You know, it's like, it's obviously small, intimate shows, but we're going to play a lot of the, like, we'll play a long set for the fans in the UK that do care about us. 'Cause
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that care about us still there. And just have fun with it. So we're excited. It's the shows are selling really well already. And yeah, I hope, you know, when you ask me where I'm most excited to go, I think all of them. I think all of them are going to be great.
Cool. And the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about briefly is obviously you've done the documentary for the new album, but you kind of, I think something that I find quite unique with Silverstein is that you kind of do document everything you do. So for yourselves, is that just a kind of almost like a mental note? And is it a bit strange to kind of look back in hindsight at the things that you've done to document them down?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's overkill, to be honest. But our drummer Paul, Mr. Manager, he's our manager as well. He's the most organized, meticulous, on top of things person ever. And he's always like, okay, we're doing these shows. Let's get a photographer to come out. Let's get a videographer in the studio to do the studio documentary. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's, you know, post this photo on social media, you know, do this. Like he's very, very on top of things. He's a real go-getter, and he's a total overachiever. I mean, he just is. And you know, he'll do the bare minimum, and it's like not even close to enough. So I think all that shit helps, man. Like sometimes I'm like, oh my god, what's the point of doing this and this time, and you know, and he's like, no, we need to do 4 music videos. It's like 4 music videos, but I think like he's right. I think putting out content and giving your fans something to look forward to all the time, and reminders of our band and what we're doing, and I think that our fan base is appreciative of that, and it is cool to look back on it. You know, I don't spend a ton of time going back and watching old studio documentary videos of our band, but I think I'm glad they exist. Yeah. And I think that one day, I'm sure, you know, the old show your grandkids thing. Yeah. You know, I think that stuff will be cool to look back on one day. And you know, I used to and stuff because I was like, oh, you know, I'll be right back. And also I'll have this in my memory forever. Yeah. But now I'm in my mid-30s and my memory's starting to get worse. So I'm like, okay, maybe it is good that, you know, we take pictures and we have videos and stuff of all this stuff so that it's, you know, so it lives forever.
And obviously, I know you guys are still going strong, obviously, 8th album out, but obviously 17 years to be a band is a very long time. So in that time, is there anything that you would have changed at all, or has everything kind of, as you mentioned earlier, everything's kind of gone naturally? So are you happy with how things have gone, or is there anything that you would have changed?
I think we weren't, a lot of times with some of the things we were doing, we weren't thinking long term enough. Yeah. I think we were like, you know, when I brought up the thing about Australia and being like, I can't believe it's a free trip to Australia. We weren't thinking about winning the fans over and coming back for a second Australian tour where we play bigger rooms and do better. And, it was just kind of like, okay, we're going to do this now. Okay, we're going to do this now. Okay, we're going to do this now. And I think that now, like, the whole idea of a career, like the word career.
Yeah.
If you said that to me about my career, if you said that to me in 2003 or 2004, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean career? I'm not Tom Cruise. I don't have a career. I'm not like famous or, it was for us, it was very much like, we're going to just do this band for a little while and then it's going to, fade away and that'll be fine. And this will be just a little fun thing I did when I was a kid,
Yeah.
And here I am 36 years old. And there's no slowing down, like last year was the best year Silverstein's ever had.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy to think that. So I think when I look back at that, I if I knew I would be here still doing the same thing, maybe we would have taken some things a little more seriously. But, of course, like, I think a big part of life and learning and everything is regret, and that's okay. It's okay to go back and say, I should have done this or should have done that. But for the most part, we don't have any major regrets. And I think musically we don't really either. I think we stand pretty firmly behind everything we've put out. Just about every song, other than maybe a couple of the tracks on Arrivals and Departures, that record it actually just turned 10.
Yeah.
2 days ago, 10 years ago, 10 years old, 2 days ago. So I've been thinking a lot about that record, and there's definitely some regrets on that one.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, musically, we do stand very, very firmly behind our music, even after all these years.
Cool. And how I like to run these things off is kind of ask you about your favourite song, but put a bit of a different spin on it. So rather than it just being the favourite song that you've ever written, what is the favourite song that you enjoy playing live?
Like a favorite Silverstein song to play live?
Yeah, and why?
Jeez, it's tough, man. I think right now at the moment, my favorite song to play live is Vices.
Okay.
For Shipwreck in the Sand, and I've always liked that song. I like the way it starts with the drums, like big drums, and it has this kind of like little break with this cool guitar riff, and and then there's this midsection where we kind of stop and it's just a kick drum, and we get the kids clapping.
Yeah. And
on Warped Tour, my friend Caleb from Beartooth is coming out and doing that with us every day, pretty much. And Silvertooth is what we call it.
Nice.
Beartooth are our best friends in the world. So Caleb's coming out and doing that song just about every day. We're just having a blast with that. So that's one of my favorites. And when we get to do it with a special guest, I think it makes it even more fun.
Cool. Perfect. Shane, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me. Really appreciate it.
All the best, man. Yeah.
And hope the rest
Thanks for having me.
Hope the rest of Warped Tour goes well, and I'm sure I'll see you when you're over here in December.
Yeah, see you there, man. And remember, it's TOL.
I will make sure that's correct. No worries. Take it easy, Shane. Thank you very much.
All the best, my friend. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Yeah. See ya.
So there we have it, folks. Massive thanks again to Shane for taking the time out to have a chat with me about the band. I just really enjoyed it. It was quite nice to go in depth and find out about the band, how they kind of like their touring sort of not schedule, but the touring life started. I guess is the best way to say it. And it's just kind of cool to still see that they're going so strong. The new album, Dead Reflections, is out now, so you can buy that in all good record stores, get it off Spotify, iTunes and all that malarkey. As mentioned, the band are still currently out on Warped Tour at the moment as well, so if you're lucky enough to be going to one of the dates, make sure you go check them out. As always, you can keep up to date with the band on all various social media platforms. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/Silverstein Music. On Twitter, it's @Silverstein. And on Instagram, if you just search Silverstein, the profile will come up. As always, you can keep up to date with this show on Twitter at just_an_insight. Or you can email us at just_an_insight@hotmail.co.uk. I'm going to forego the film section of the show for this week, just as I'm recording this rather late and I still need to edit bits and pieces. So I'm either going to just do it next week or do a bumper edition. I'm undecided yet, but yeah, the film section will be back next week. Let us know what you think of the film section, whether it's worthwhile me doing it. I enjoy doing it, but I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I do. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming back to the Just an Insight podcast, and I will see you very soon.